The Talk Station presents Faith Matters, a look at contemporary stories and issues from a faith perspective. While this is a pre-recorded show, we are interested in your ideas, comments, and questions, and we urge you to email them to faithmatters@thetalkstation.com.
Give me faith, trust what you say, that you're good and your love is great. I'm broken inside, I give you my life.
And now on the Talk Station, Faith Matters.
And welcome to Faith Matters for this week here on the Talk Station. I'm Ben Ball, along with Reverend Robert Cornicky, and also Reverend Carl Zorowski and Bishop Doc Loomis. And good day, gentlemen. Good to have you all here again.
Good morning.
Hello. All right, let's get started with our first article that we're going to look at today. This comes from Angel US, or Angelus, or however you want to say it. It is a website actually of the Diocese of Los Angeles. And the article is called Legal Group, Federal Law Can't Require Sterilizations at Catholic Hospitals. It comes from Flint, Michigan. The story is hospitals run according to Catholic ethics shouldn't be coerced into performing sterilizations, a legal group has said after the American Civil Liberties Union filed a federal complaint against a Michigan medical center. Ken Connolly, who's the legal counsel with Alliance for Defending Freedom, says no one should be forced to perform or participate in a procedure when doing so would violate their conscience. This is especially true of medical workers in healthcare systems who are in the profession largely because of and as an extension of their faith. The legal group said that federal officials should disregard a complaint filed by the Genesis Regional Medical Center in Flint. The complaint dates back to 2015 when a woman named Jessica Mann gave birth to her third child and asked for a postpartum tubal ligation. Her doctors recommended the procedure due to a potentially life-threatening brain tumor. The medical center declined the request, and the parent company, Ascension Health, which requires its hospitals to follow ethical and religious directives of the U.S. Bishops' Conference, which recognized intentional direct sterilization as unethical and contrary to Catholic teaching. Mann had the procedure at a different hospital, but the complaint was still filed against them. This seems like now, ever since we had the Supreme Court ruling on Obamacare, Hobby Lobby, and how it was to proceed, that this is kind of the extension of where we somewhat anticipated things going. You agree, Robert?
Correct. Ideas have consequences. And so the consequence of the federal government pushing its nose under the edge of the tent, like the proverbial camel, eventually the camel gets all the way in the tent. And that's what we're seeing. So the pushback is coming from the organizations, and health organizations are particularly vulnerable to this because so many of the people that go into the health profession, they go into it really as a vocation. For many of them, it is a spiritual exercise. It's a way that they serve their fellow man, and
it's a calling.
It's a calling, yeah, and that they see this as an extension of who they are and the care that they give. And when the state, using air quotes around that, comes in and says, no, you have to do things that violate your conscience, then there needs to be pushback, and obviously there is pushback on this. And thank goodness for Alliance Defending Freedom and a lot of the other organizations that are out there that help individuals as well as health organizations in this case, to defend these freedoms. So we really need to do that, and we need to encourage them to do that and help these organizations financially so they can afford to do it.
The ACLU had complained basically that this was an act of discrimination against an individual's right to receive the care that they desired, and the Alliance for Defending Freedom countered in their letter, said it's not an act of discrimination to decline for conscience reasons to perform a medical procedure. Indeed, if that were the case, conscience protections would not exist. And Robert, you find that this is consistent again with Robert. Yeah. Doc. I looked the
We
wrong
look
way.
so much alike.
Yeah,
It
that's
is
right.
confusing.
It's
isn't
been
it?
a couple of weeks since I've seen you
And our
guys.
voices are so similar.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not sure what you asked, but I'll tell you what I think. I think
that's right.
First of all, I think this is ridiculous. Here's a lady that was going to a hospital to have a planned delivery. She knew that it was her third child. She knew she had a brain tumor, and she knew that she was going to ask for a tubal ligation. Who goes to a hospital not already having cleared that they can do, at
All
least
of that.
through their surgeon,
Right.
having cleared that that's something that's available? That's number one. So that's just loony bins. Number two, this is one of those lawsuits that has absolutely no ground. Look, since 1973 and the whatever that was
Roe v.
called,
Wade.
the what?
I mean, what? Which one? Go ahead.
What-
Roe v. Wade?
No, the Public Health Service Act was more what I was thinking. But since the Public Health Service Act, there have been at least 40 or 50 pieces of legislation that have been written, some of them put into sections of the United States codes that very clearly, that make it very clear that we are not required to do things that are a violation of our conscience. As medical professionals, you don't have to do that. You really don't. That's law. And so this is one of those things where, why are we even bringing this up? These people are protected from doing this thing. Well, they say, well, and this is the argument that I love. This is the ACLU's law, or the ACLU's comment was that it shouldn't be that religious preference or religious beliefs trump the very serious medical needs of a person. What? On what planet? There are so many places that we can have various kinds of surgeries, where we can have abortions, where we can have tubal ligations, where we can have male sterilization. I don't really think this caused grave damage to this woman, like they say, and I really don't think it's too hard to figure out where to go. This isn't the only hospital in her town.
Well, I don't believe there was a monetary damage that was asked for here, because it was a complaint filed. She went and got the procedure
No, it
somewhere else.
caused her significant harm.
Oh, okay.
That's the basis. There you have to prove harm in order to show to have standing. You're right, exactly. But it's one of those crazy things. It's like, at what point, at what the Alliance for Freedom, Defense of Freedom, is that what it
Alliance
is?
for Defending Freedom.
The Alliance for Defending Freedom, who's in, I think, 2 of our stories today, is absolutely right. I mean, the fact that you're denying a service to somebody as a right of conscience is in no way discrimination. This is not a discrimination suit.
You know, for a long time in our history, we have the clergy have walked hand in hand with hospital officials. You know, whether it's being as a chaplain or in other procedures as well. Often, you even see today prayer around a operating room before it happens. But it seems that we have taken from the state side, from the federal or any state government or any entity side, that we're looking at the medical profession as a technical apparatus. It can do these procedures, and so it can do these procedures, so they will do these procedures. And it seems that we have moved into separating that kind of dichotomy between, or they created a dichotomy between the clergy and medicine. Anybody respond to that? Carl, you see that at all?
I do.
Feel free to agree and disagree with that too.
No. I agree with that. I'm not sure how I'm going to respond and sound like I know what I'm talking about.
That's never bothered me. So
Well, I think what Ben's saying is that if something can be done medically and somebody wants it, then there's an argument that they should be allowed to have it.
that's right.
Period.
That's right.
But also on the other side of the coin, if it is against my religious beliefs to do this, then I, as a medical professional, ought to have that option of saying, no, I will not do this. You know, it's the same thing as if somebody came to me as a pastor, I can marry people. The state allows me to marry people. But if 2 people come to me and want to get married, and for some reason I just cannot in good conscience conduct that wedding, say I see signs of physical abuse or something before the marriage even takes place, you know, I have the right to say, no, I'm not going to do that. And I think that a medical professional ought to have that right as well.
But don't you think that the slight difference in this is they're actually not suing the physician, that is the surgeon. The surgeon wanted to do it. They're suing the hospital for its policy. They're suing an institution.
Yeah, and this, I think you hit it, Ben, when you talked about that dichotomy, that secular sacred divide that is so dominant in our worldview now, in our culture, that the sacred stuff happens in a place of worship or in your private home. You can be just as religious as you want to be there, but dare not let it spill out of there and go into your actual workaday life. Right. It's like on Sunday, you can be sacred. But on Monday through Saturday, no. It's this you're in the secular world now, buddy, and you better toe the line. And really, yeah, I mean, I'm being a little hyperbolic about it, but it's a fact that we have this problem, and the state is demanding and insisting that it has the authority to prevent,
to force that secular view,
to force the secular view, and to impinge on your sacred rights, your freedom of religion rights, and obviously we're talking about a medical situation, but there are lots of areas, whether it's a pastor or a photographer or a cake baker
or a florist
or whoever it is. Can you live out your religious conscience?
We'll have more to come in a moment here on Faith Matters on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240. Welcome back to Faith Matters here on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240, and thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Ball, along with Reverend Robert Cornegie and Bishop Doc Loomis. I was looking at the opposite ones here. And also Reverend Carl Zorowski. I got you right. And as we talk about some other issues that are confronting our faith these days, this one is coming out of the Metro section of, I'm trying to remember what newspaper this is from. This is from the Boston Globe. Churches drop lawsuit against state's transgender law. Felicia Gans writes this article. 4 Massachusetts churches on Monday dropped a federal lawsuit contending that the state's new transgender anti-discrimination law violates their First Amendment's rights to freely practice their religion. In a statement, supporters of the churches say that they withdrew their claim after it prompted state officials to admit the First Amendment protects a church's freedom to operate consistently with its faith. But the Massachusetts Attorney General's office said the church's lawsuit was never necessary to begin with, and that it only had clarified existing law. Robert, you find that a little funny.
Oh, my goodness. Isn't it great, though, that we can push back on these things, these decisions that these state attorneys and departments and whatnot, and then you have a few people push back on it, and they say, "Oh, what are you talking about? There's no problem here. It was always in the law.
Move along,
this
move
way.
along. Nothing to see here."
Nothing to see." And so it just makes me laugh, because they will go as far as you let them go. Mm-hmm. And basically, what they're constantly doing, they being those who are trying to stretch the boundaries of morality, basically, in this case. And but they'll go just as far as you let them go. So if the silent majority stays silent, then you get what it becomes consent. That silence becomes consent. So fortunately, some churches push back. And so at least we have a news article that, I'm so glad you put this one in there, Ben, because we had talked about this months ago.
Right.
And said,
it was another state's context.
Well, it was in Idaho, I think.
Right.
But Mass did basically the same thing.
Right.
So, So now at least we can say there's been this precedent where they sort of backed up. And of course, Idaho did too. So we can fight these things. And I'm involved in a local fight right now on some of these issues, and it's encouraging to me to hear that we still have grounds. Yeah.
While the Attorney General may say that it wasn't necessary, they did change some guidelines in this case in Massachusetts. They changed the commission, the Massachusetts Commission Against Anti-Discrimination, made a clarification in its gender identity guidance, which is kind of even remarkable when we think about it that we have to have gender identity guidance. But the Commission's latest guideline states that the law does not apply to religious organization if subjecting the organization to the law would violate the organization's First Amendment rights. Wait a minute. If it violates an organization's First Amendment rights, doesn't the First Amendment apply to everybody else too, beyond churches? What they're saying is that it's that the law doesn't apply to them because the First Amendment trumps their law.
Right.
But why doesn't it trump for everyone else too?
Yeah.
I don't get that. So in any case, so Gary Busek, legal director for the GLBTQ legal advocates and defenders, are glad, says the wording change was trivial. Their new language substantively doesn't mean any change, but if it's clear to people, it's a good thing. So.
This is so ridiculous again. May I just say this is the second ridiculous article. What is amazing about this.
Make your day.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It actually was written, the word houses of worship was in the law. It was then removed from the law. That is a substantive change in the law. That would be like the Division of Marine Fisheries saying, there's limits on speckled trout and flounder and blues, and then you say, oh, well, actually, we're going to take flounder out. That's a substantive change. Am I wrong on this?
No, that's correct.
So if you take houses of worship out, I think we need to remember that this was a preemptive suit, right? There actually haven't been any churches in Massachusetts that have been sued in order to put, gender neutral or a third bathroom in.
Right.
This was their attempt to kind of nip this in the bud. So, but this flagrant use of lunacy that is so common on the liberal side that this wasn't necessary, it was already there. That's just spin. It's all lies. It had to be done. It was done. They were victorious. Praise God.
But this is again part of a spin. This is a spin in reverse in a sense. But even when I was in South Carolina, there was for vacation. There was a news story on a local TV station about some institution or entity. I think it was a business that had a transgender bathroom. It was a single hole, single toilet bathroom. They've always been gender neutral. To me, it's this change of they call it a minor change of wording, which it was a significant change of wording, but instead they want to impose a change that they say is really just minor.
Yeah. We just have to be vigilant, because, like I said, they're going to push as wherever they feel like they can push, and try to catch us off guard. And if we're not paying attention, they're going to slip these things in. And it's so much harder to change things after they've been established than before they've been established. But they work in sort of a covert way. And that's what we're up against. This is just what we as citizens and Christian citizens. This is the impact we're to have on society. We're to look for these areas and defend the truth. It has to be defended.
Now, they also have on here an article, a clarification in the article. The Attorney General later says that if a religious facility hosts a public secular function, it can still qualify as a place of public accommodation. And now I'm going to be real interested, Carl, to see what's going to be defined as a public secular function here.
Sure. I read this and I question, how would things look at my church if we wanted to do an event? If somebody called us and said we're looking for a facility to do this, and it was a secular type of event,
an arts and crafts show,
right? And when we open up the church to that, in a sense, it's still outreach for us because we're still welcoming people into our facility. There are going to be people from the church there who are going to welcome them. We're not going to preach to them while they're there, but hey, it's a church. People come in, they see we're a church. I will introduce myself as the pastor of the church. We welcome you here tonight. So are we opening ourselves up to a lawsuit by opening up the church to other groups?
Well, at St. Peter's, where you pastor, we held, and I was the MC for a healthcare forum. Mm-hmm. That would be a perfect example of that. It was a healthcare forum. It wasn't about religious aspects. It was just a healthcare forum, period. Right. And would that all of a sudden make you subject to?
And we host twice a year. We hold a concert that's done by a homeschool band. Mm-hmm. All right. We do have a prayer at the concert because it's in the church. Mm-hmm. And so I guess by offering that prayer, it crosses that line from being a secular event to being a religious event.
That's kind of the tack we've taken. We just had a community watch event at our church. And so Pastor Clay, senior pastor, welcomed everyone, talked a little bit about the church and what the ministry and mission of the church, and then we had a prayer.
But a lot
and
of our,
that was the sort of sacred part of the event.
A lot of our churches are community centers for different things. What about the churches that are polling places?
That's right. Look, I know there's no pastors listening to this because it's Sunday morning and they're home writing their sermons. So, but what I would say, any church that has not taken preemptive measures to place into their bylaws information regarding the public use of the facility, the same-sex marriages, public restrooms, all of these things they're very simple to put into bylaws and to explain to everybody in the church. Is really, anybody who has not done that is just asking for a fight right now. Much, much better to take a lesson from what happened in our very last story, and be, get it done now. Get your church accustomed to the fact that these are things we don't do. Get it published, get it in your bylaws, and let people know when they sign the event form that your event has to fit with our bylaws. Right. It's very simple.
Yeah, because they're looking for opportunities to challenge churches on this, because there's a real push out there to take that tax exempt status and take that away. So this is all about it's the old line, follow the money. That's what they're looking at.
Well, or go order the gender-neutral bathroom signs and have them ready to stick right up there in a hurry if you have to.
Well, we actually have one on our children's bathroom with the little tiny little potties so that they make it as uncomfortable as possible.
That's discrimination.
Yeah. It is, I know.
That's right.
Well.
This is an issue, Robert, we've talked a lot about in the past about incrementalism. One little thing after another, one small thing it may be. And here at the end of this article, this Attorney General says that door is still open to pursue this against the church. Correct. If they serve as a community center. And so that's something I think we have to watch out for. This is, as you said, Doc, this is something we ought to be taking action on now. Many churches do it. We'll have more to come in a moment here on Faith Matters here on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240. Welcome back to Faith Matters on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240. And I'm Ben Ball, along with Bishop Doc Lewis, Reverend Carl Zorowski, and Reverend Robert Cornigan. Let's talk about another article here. This one is about Planned Parenthood, a subject we certainly brought up before. But this is a suit that Planned Parenthood has filed, or a complaint filed, against a local pregnancy care center. It's Planned Parenthood. This Planned Parenthood targets pro-life center over mobile clinic parking. It's from MRC TV. And opening of the article says Planned Parenthood reared its ugly, hypocritical head yet again this week. So obviously you know the bias that it's taking here, but it's yet again this week when it targeted a pro-life pregnancy center for doing exactly what Planned Parenthood claims to support: helping pregnant women get safe, quality health care. According to Red State, a Planned Parenthood branch in Idaho has filed a complaint against the Stanton Healthcare Center, a pregnancy center offering alternatives to abortion and run by a pro-life advocate, because the center dared to park its mobile clinic in the common area parking lot outside their own building. Just to reiterate, the pro-abortion group that whines nonstop about how it's so unfairly targeted simply for caring about the poor, unsupported women is now taking aim at a pregnancy center that provides care to poor, unsupported women. They're in the same facility. I looked at a couple of other articles on this, and they're actually co-located in this, whether it's a strip center or a complex. They're basically neighbors, and like sometimes neighbors do, they don't like each other apparently. But Robert, you work with the pregnancy center in this area, and that would be, imagine if the other half of the building was a Planned Parenthood clinic.
Look, there are a lot of churches that churches nowadays that are coming up that try to get into areas where there are bars and there's strip clubs and there
right,
gambling casinos and all that stuff to have a witness right in that area, and so that a pregnancy center would actually try to locate in the same building as the Planned Parenthood people would, I think, is to be expected. Quite frankly, that's a pretty good strategy. But they're the baby Huey in this situation. This Planned Parenthood group that love to throw their weight around, and this is all they're doing. They know they've gotten some bad PR, and they continue to do it. And of course, for their this will be a fundraising effort, no doubt, for Planned Parenthood. That we're defending those right wing, knuckle dragging Christians that want everybody to be barefoot and pregnant. That's the way they portray us. But yeah, there's nothing. And again, this article, it's nothing surprising that Planned Parenthood would do this. The surprising part I like is that the pregnancy center has a mobile clinic.
Yeah,
I think that's brilliant. That's a great idea. We may have to look into that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Is this we were talking, Doc, earlier about pushback? Is this part of the pushback that is right for faithful people to be doing?
Sure. I mean, what's amazing about this, sometimes just one simple action like a lawsuit can just cut through all the slogans and the PR and the talking points of an organization like Planned Parenthood and, reveal this rotting corpse for what it really is, laying right there bleeding in front of you. This is not about women's health. This is about money that comes from having abortions. Right. This is strictly a financial battle. And the other thing these people know is that Planned Parenthood has a lot more money than this little clinic does, and filing lawsuits is going to always hurt the little guy a lot more than it's going to hurt Planned Parenthood. So they can hopefully drive them out of business by filing repeated lawsuits. That's a part of the game plan. But the challenge with this is it's just like the hospital story, the Catholic sterilization story we just did a few minutes ago. These Catholic hospitals have been established for a reason, and they tend to work in the fringes of our societies. They tend to work with people who are really kind of the less fortunate. The same thing is true with these kinds of clinics. They're there. They have a mobile unit that goes to places where people can't come out. They actually do care. And all these lawsuits, whether it's against a hospital or against a clinic like this, is just cutting your legs out from under you as a society. You're saying, we don't actually want to have a mobile unit, and we don't want to go into those places, and we don't really care about health. We care about abortions, but there's a group that does, so let's sue them. Well, why? Who's going to do that? Who's going to drive? Who's going to drive the bus over there? Who's going to take care of the folks at the Catholic hospitals? And that's the end result of this lawsuit. It hurts the people that we really think our health system should help the most, the people on the fringes. Very frustrating.
I think this is a frustrating, as you say, because it just is it is a common sense thing that this pregnancy center has done something beyond just a meeting and rubbing their hands and saying that, oh, we ought to do something to help. They put together a plan that takes it out into the neighborhoods. And here they complain, the Planned Parenthood complains that they're parking from sometimes Tuesday to Friday. they're parking in the common area of this business center where they both are located. So it just, I think it is ridiculous is kind of the theme of some of the stories so far.
Yes, this is Ridiculous Day on Faith Matters.
So,
yes.
But once again, we're prayerful, Carl. I think that common sense may take hold here, and anybody, even on a local board that looks at it, says, "Huh? What are you complaining about?"
Sure, because both parties here claim to have the best interests of those who need the health care. And so if I were a judge and this were to come before me, I'd say, well, there's really no case here. You guys are both doing the same thing. By the letter of the law, you guys are both doing the same thing, even though one is, one is conducting abortions and the other one is helping people not to have abortions. But if both companies have as their stated purpose for being, as their mission statement, to provide health care, then there's no case.
Right.
It's fascinating that this has gotten so tangled up, and we literally have an industry now, an abortion industry, and Planned Parenthood is just one of the biggest corporations involved in the game, but they're not the only one. There are lots of others that are involved in this, and it's become an international. They have an international strategy, and they're actually moving this out. And through the current administration that we have, it's become a big part of our foreign policy and our international health program. And the United States is partnering with the UN in a number of initiatives to limit aid to other nations that do not go along with this abortion agenda. And it's fascinating to watch how this has grown from this. And so when Planned Parenthood, we talk about the, $50 billion that comes out of our federal budget every year that goes to Planned Parenthood, or 500 perhaps it is. It's 500 billion that goes into Planned Parenthood, and that's taxpayers' money. I mean, that's where that's coming from. We're all contributing towards that, and so their financial, as Doc said, this is a money thing. This is a follow the money thing. They're seeing that this little pro-life group is actually having an impact. I mean, abortion rates have been falling for the last 2 decades. I mean, it's incredible, and a lot of it is because of the activity of pregnancy care centers and resource centers and pro-life centers. And so we're seeing them reacting. We're seeing a kind of knee-jerk reaction from Planned Parenthood to try to stop these kind of things. So it's going to continue. This is going to be an ongoing battle.
I look at this this case right here, and I have to wonder, was there any conversation that took place between the parties prior to the lawsuit being filed?
Were they neighbors?
They both
right.
are most likely leasing space from some property management company. The property management company has regulations as to what is allowed, what is not, where is parking allowed, and this was a common parking area. I wonder, did anyone from Planned Parenthood go to the management company? Did they go and knock on the door of the other clinic, or did they just immediately pick up the phone and call an attorney?
Yes, you wonder about where that happens in this, but it is not the agenda of Planned Parenthood to make nice with this particular neighbor. But
and we've had 3 stories so far, and all 3 of these involved lawsuits. Right. Has our society come to the point that if we don't agree with somebody, the only way to settle it is with lawyers.
Well, I think we've been at that point for a while. I mean, even churches, we see that among neighbors. A neighbor has a complaint about a church. They rarely go to the church. They often go to the court.
Yeah.
So, but it's this is at the end of the article, as it says, what you say, Robert, is that you follow the money here. This is really about money and power.
It is absolutely. They control. They are the controlling interest in this industry, and have amassed incredible political power as well as economic power and social power. And this is why I use that Baby Huey reference, because they are the big one on the block, and it's hard for the little guys to stand up against this power that they have.
You're listening to Faith Matters here on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240, and I'm Ben Ball, along with Reverend Robert Cornegy and Reverend Carl Zarowski and Bishop Doc Loomis. And we'll have more to come in just a moment here on Faith Matters. Hope you'll stay with us. And welcome back to Faith Matters here on the Talk Station, FM 107 and AM 1240. And I'm Ben Ball, along with Reverend Robert Cornegy, Bishop Doc Loomis, and Reverend Carl Zarowski, as we talk one more time about President-elect Donald Trump, and this time about his pick for Secretary of State, ExxonMobil CEO Rex Tillerson. And it's drawn the ire of at least one major social conservative, and it may follow with some others. Let's talk about this article from RNS Religious News Service. It says Donald Trump's pick for Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, has come under fire for his friendship with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is suspected of trying to tip the election to Trump, his lack of diplomatic experience, and the fact that he is a corporate bigwig who champions fossil fuels even as its threat of global warming grows. So it starts out with a few premises there.
In that one paragraph.
They
kind of played their hand, didn't they?
Yeah. But Tillerson, whose nomination was announced on Tuesday, may also face criticism from an unexpected quarter of social conservatives whose support was critical to Trump's unexpected election last month. What seems to have triggered this is a letter that's been written by Tony Perkins from the Family Research Council to supporters that calls Tillerson maybe the greatest ally liberals have in the cabinet for their abortion and LGBT agendas. That's because ExxonMobil, as a company, has supported Planned Parenthood in the past, or has done other projects as well too. But so it'll be interesting to see how this happens. According to something I actually heard in the news today, that Donald Trump and Tillerson have only met a couple of times. But in their vetting, I mean, Donald that liked his swagger, liked the way that he negotiates, and likes the way that he has the ear of world leaders. I guess when you're CEO of ExxonMobil, you're going to. But so as Secretary of State, what do you guys think? Does the social conservative agenda here concern you one way or another? Doc, what do you think?
I think that Obama made such a mess by creating a centerpiece out of LGBT issues and inclusivity as putting that on the world stage. And I think that Trump has said, I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. Because that's the Secretary of State's job, I don't think he's really going to have a platform to do it. He works for the president. If the president says that's not going to be out there, I don't think it'll be. But here's the thing is, what honestly do people want in this cabinet selection? We've never seen a cabinet selection process. I mean, it's live feed on Facebook and Fox News. Well, I spent 30 minutes watching the elevator at Trump Tower the other day, and I didn't see nobody. I think Dr. Ben Carson came out, and that was it. Yeah. Why are we doing what we need to do?
Domino's Pizza was there, I think.
The Domino's guy came. Trump needs to pick some liberal college punk, who's broke, anti-capitalist, pro-hamster wheel energy, lives in his mother's basement. And just say, okay, this here's what you want, guys. So here's your Secretary of State, and then shut them up. I mean, these people, oh my gosh, these people live in this fantasy world somewhere, like on a video game in the world run by Mordor or something. What do they expect? This guy, have you ever seen this guy, Rex Tillerson?
Yeah, I've seen pictures.
You've seen pictures? No. He's like GQ handsome. He's very smart. He's done a wonderful job, according to everybody that works with him. I mean, I just think this guy on the world stage is going to command respect by his sheer presence, his track record. I mean, he's that kind of guy, and that's what we need, because he's going to do the president's bidding. I'm not scared.
It seemed that in the past administration, or the one that's ending anyway, the Obama administration, the objective was to keep my friends closer, my enemies close, and my enemies closer, putting different people in those positions who had potential for upsetting the Obama wheel, I guess, in many ways. You look at John Kerry or Hillary Clinton coming in there as well, so as in those positions. But I was talking to a conservative friend yesterday who was saying that one thing he likes about these picks actually is that these people that take the facts that are presented from them and before them and make a decision. They don't have an agenda. They don't have either the social conservative agenda. They don't have a liberal agenda. They have an agenda for let's get this fixed. let's do the job. So, in many ways, I think Trump has hired a number of mirror images in some fashion of deal makers.
That was one of the articles I read. Was that the art of the deal is he wrote that book for a reason, because he believes in it. Mm-hmm. And the Trump wrote that book years ago. But anyway, he respects and admires people that can get things done. Mm-hmm. Not just talk about them, not bloviate constantly about stuff, but actually get it done. Now, there's going to be there are no perfect getter-doners out there, because anybody that's trying to get stuff done every once in a while has a deal blow up on them. And then you go back and you go back at it. This guy worked, I think he started as a kind of like a trainee engineer with ExxonMobil, and has worked himself up to be president.
The CEO.
CEO of the place. And so he's a get things done kind of guy. And that's what America said we wanted, right? In voting for Trump, electing Trump, is that we want somebody who's going to get it done instead of just talk about it.
But but in the social issues that we are concerned with, and that we watch and that we see come along, I have this feeling that in 3 years from now, if we've looked at what this president has done, and we like half of what he's done, and we don't like half of what he's done, he probably has succeeded. Because I don't see him as he's not a conservative, not a true conservative. He's not a true liberal. He's pragmatic. And he's a populist. And we're going to see how that plays out. And I think the picks so far reflect that. Carl, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I wonder if we're going to see less spin on issues now than we have in the past, because what I see is some of these picks that they're just going to tell you what they think, and that's just it. They're not necessarily going to be telling you what they think you want to hear.
I'm going to be interested to see how many will say, and I think we will see this. They say, "I changed my mind." This is something we don't see in politics.
No, we don't. We don't. Instead, they try to tell us, "Well, that's what I said before. You just didn't hear it properly."
Yes, that's right. I did say you could keep your doctor, but I just it just said it in a different way this time.
Yeah, I voted for it before I voted against it.
Yeah, right. But instead of the spin doctors, I think you may be right. Maybe we'll see actual surgery being performed.
And I could see, like, if this guy worked to open up the Boy Scouts. To the gay community, that if he's questioned about that, he's not going to sit there and say, "Well, that's not really what I did." Instead, he's going to say, "Yes, that's what I did, and this is why I did it." Next question.
Yeah. So are we prepared, to present the case? Because I said that earlier.
And that's kind of the theme of each one of these articles we've looked at, is that we do have to push back. Mm-hmm. We have to be prepared to push back. Nobody's going to be perfect. I think the relationship right now and I'm not trying to diminish the challenge, because I think from previous things that I've said, even on this show, is that I understand that as a Secretary of State, in the vein of the last two we've had, mm-hmm. I'm willing to give this guy the benefit of the doubt to begin with. But if he starts pushing for the agendas from the previous administration, mm-hmm. then I'm going to be the first on the picket lines.
The sin of these last presidencies, these last several actually, has been the one dominant has been lying.
Right.
Constant lying. If we can put people in place in Washington who will simply not lie,
tell the truth,
just take that Christian virtue on
mm-hmm.
and tell the truth, we will be a million miles down the road from where we are right now.
Well, let me give you an example that maybe run counter to some conservative thought, though. But remember when Colin Powell testified before the UN, when he was speaking to the UN about weapons of mass destruction, I could not watch that and believe that he believed it. He just did not have that sense of confidence in that. And I think what Trump is developing so far as a president-elect is that he's putting people around him who will say that to him. I don't have confidence in this view. I don't agree with you here. But if that's what you want, then I will develop the point to say. But I'm going to tell you when I don't feel that way. I mean, I think that's what I'm saying. That to me is a hallmark of hopefully is of a new style of leadership.
Yeah.
Is not developing people who are going to just say yes to whatever your bumper sticker of the day is. But
well, the question is going to be, can we handle the truth? I mean, no, can we? Can we can we? I mean, none of us in this room are old enough to remember a government that didn't lie to us. Mm-hmm. And we've just watched a campaign. We watched a candidate in a campaign whose entire campaign was one long string of lies. Mm-hmm. I think people are tired of it. Mm-hmm. But can we handle to hear the truth come out of Washington? It'll be interesting to see.
And on that note, we will finish up here for this week's edition of Faith Matters on the talk station FM 107 and AM 1240. I hope that you'll join us next time.
Thank you for joining us for Faith Matters. Email your comments, questions, and suggestions to faithmatters@thetalkstation.com.
Give me faith, trust what you say, that you're good and your love is great. I'm broken inside, I give you my life. Give me faith.
Faith Matters is a production of The Talk Station.